Mr. Speaker, today we are going to talk about a woman who is young and successful feminist as middle-class people. She doesn't have to worry about the daily sustenance, for example, food, water, shelter, etc. But she still doesn't feel her life is already actualized. She wants to have some other things she hasn't experienced yet. We think in that circumstances, even though the escort, I know escort is recognized something gray or something undesirable in the society, still, as a feminist woman, I think she has to pursue the life and the way of pursuing that living. That's why I'm very proud to propose this motion today. From Prime Minister, I want to talk about three things. First of all, how she cannot make fullest experience in their side of the house, and secondly, what she can achieve on our side, and simply lastly, I want to talk about, as a feminist successful woman, why she has to do that. But before that, some clarifications regarding this motion. We are talking about a full experience as this. We define the way to pursue fullest experience as the way to experience as many things as possible. For example, high-level education of many subjects, or various type of occupations, or experience a relationship with many men, for example. Those kind of many experiences will enrich your life, and she wants to have that kind of experience within that full experience. I want to talk about. And then regarding the escort, it is very diverse. Maybe it includes paid dating services on prostitutions, which include the sexual services. But I don't know what country she is in and what kind of preference it has. And if it's illegal and it's prohibited, or she doesn't want to have a sexual connection with a man, I don't think she has to do that. If it's legal and she wants to do that, even though it is sexual, she wants to do that, it's okay. But we don't talk about the illegal or unprepared activity of herself. So that's the definition. And as a clarification, we don't try to say that women have to escort until she dies. We are saying after experiencing escort and earning money to necessary extent and enjoy the escort itself as one experience, we are happy to say that she can end that experience. And if she feels she achieved that purpose, she doesn't have to continue to escort in outside the house. It's a basic clarification about outside the house. Any question? No? So moving on to my first argument, how she cannot make full experience in the status quo. As a characterization, as I told you in the introduction, when we talk about a woman who is young and successful as middle class, she doesn't have to worry about daily necessities like food or water, etc. But still, she doesn't have full capacity to do what she wants to the larger extent. For example, she wants to go back to university or graduate university and want to learn more, right? But she doesn't have enough money for paying tuition for that. Or she wants to have connection with richer man or rich community, and she doesn't have the capacity to be connected with those kind of services because she's just working as a middle class. She doesn't have the opportunity and the capacity to do so. So that's why, Mr. Speaker, we think she has decent life in the status quo, but it's not the real and the maximum extent of the experience she wants to have in the status quo. That's the problem we are talking about. So secondly, what she can achieve on outside the house. Firstly, experience of escort itself is something she wants as a one of fullest experience because it's something away from your daily life and it attracts you to a certain extent. Because human beings in nature are interested in gray zone experiences and something that is undesirable in a society. That's one of the human beings' nature. And especially for middle class women, the world of escort is far different from your daily life. That's why it attracts some women, particularly in the middle class women, within that kind of achievement can be uniquely done in outside the house. And secondly, also escort is a unique way to be connected with upper class people, richer community. For example, as we recognize a recent trend in the West in Japan, many women actually have connection with the richer man in the status quo, like in the Minatoku or those kind of things, right? We think those kind of escort is one of the unique way for women to be connected with those communities. She cannot interact without this escort. That is, we think, one of the achievements in outside our house. And also, we think the monetary incentives there, because when she's only working for the daily, ordinary jobs, like in the corporations, etc. We think that kind of money is sometimes not enough for her to achieve the full extent of her actualization. We think the monetary incentive is very important because in the escort, as you know, it is very, very profitable for you. Just because she is talking with men, you can receive tens of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars per hour. That kind of monetary incentive is so huge, and that is resulted with your better life to do something she wants in the daily life, like going to university or going to buy something or going abroad and experience something very different from your daily life. That is a thing we can achieve on outside of the house. So why, as a feminist, successful woman, she has to do this? Mr. Speaker, feminist is about choice and autonomy of individual women. Then she has what she wants, and she doesn't have the capacity in the status quo, but she has some way to do so in our side of the house, in our side of the house. There's no reason to stop it, Mr. Speaker, because as a feminist, it's choice for individual to, for example, commit in a prostitution if it is legal, and if it is choice of women to have some jobs that is undesirable, that is deemed to be undesirable, even though in the status quo. That's a unique principle of feminist. That's why we're not talking about the ordinary women. She has resistance to do something great, undesirable in the society, or something recognized as the neutral or natural things as a women are doing. We think as a feminist women, this is uniquely how to be conducted in the outside of the house. That's a basic principle. Question answer. Wow, I have already completed my argument. So. Mr. Speaker, we are talking about the woman who is living a decent life, but she doesn't have full capacity to enjoy her life to the largest extent. That's when this debate comes in. We are saying she has capacity to achieve that moment, and she has achieved to actualize herself to the larger extent in the status quo. That's why she has to commit it to the feminist principle and actually achieve the choice to enrich her life and experience as much as possible in the outside the house. That's why we are very proud.
Thank you, Chair. Meaningful experience or full extent of experience should not be just defined by the amount of things that you experience, but it should be defined by how much you achieve from that experience and how much goal that you achieve from that experience. Because I would not probably say that debating was my important experience if I was doing many things altogether and have not achieved anything. And that's why I think that this moonlighting as an escort actually hinders the very important goal as a feminist, and we think therefore we should not do this to use this time to use my precious time for this many things that for this moonlight especially, right? So that's my stance as an opening positions. I have two things in my speech. Firstly, as a successful female feminist, what's the priority of experience and why this moonlighting is not one of them. But secondly, how moonlight as an escort actually hinders the meaningful experience to achieve the goal as a feminist movement, and how that's significant under our planet. But before that one point of model, right? So what do we do instead? But we would like to use this time to proceed the movement, such as going to the demonstrations, and if we think there is just given like 24 hours a day, we think that you have to make a priority, and if we do have to do that, I would like to do it on our product. So before moving to the argument, I have several points of quotations. Firstly, so Kurachi-san has talked about how you can utilize the connection from this moonlight activities. I have two illustrations. Firstly, so the question is, can you actually utilize the connections because you're hiding from the society that you do this, right? It's probably the reason why you hide it is because it's probably not really a desirable thing to do in the society. There's still norm existing to hinder this kind of thing from going to the public, right? Therefore, we think you cannot, even if you access to the connection, you cannot really utilize it. But secondly, even if you can, right, it's very dangerous because there's always a possibility this male is likely to blackmail you if you actually utilize these kinds of connections. Then you're going to be like sexual harassed maybe because you are actually regarding to this kind of activity. And we think that's far more dangerous as an experience, right? But secondly, he also talked about money profitability, which is kind of contradictory because this is a successful woman, right? She has the money to live on, and we don't understand how that marginal benefit or profit is something that's important as an experience. So we don't understand how that's significant. So moving on to the first issue, right? As a successful female feminist, what's the priority? So what we believe is that this goal of feminists, as a feminist, to perceive the goal of the second movement, such as the breaking glaciers, is something that's important for me because the extent of experience to perceive the goal is deeply intertwined with the activity of my experience, and because I'm a feminist, I value this kind of goal, right? I value and I am grateful I can be a successful female, but we think there also is other black females who are still suffering from the glaciers of society, and we think there are still people who need the help, such as maybe colored female who also doesn't have the ability to proceed to promote it in the society, and we think that to achieve the help for these people are more important goal than just being myself in the exercise the goal, right? So we think, therefore, then we think moonlighting is not a meaningful experience in that manner, and that is going to be my second argument, right? So moving on to the second argument. Why moonlighting as an escort is actually a bad decision for a feminist movement. Yes?
We are not saying she has to escort every day, every night. Why are they so exclusive?
Thank you. That's my second argument. So, firstly, we think it hinders the experience to perceive the goal for two main reasons, right? Firstly, we think that moonlighting is a very, very dangerous thing because it's always there to be a danger to be found out, right? And because as an escort, you have to access to the clients who you don't actually know, right? So it's possible that when you go to the man's house using companies to connect this kind of relationship, it's possible that like the one that you enter the door and the boss of that company or like the other like people who actually know from your workplace can also come up in front and find out you are actually like moonlight. And we think it actually hinders you as an individual to achieve the goal of the feminist movement. Because we think if you are found out, what's the implication to the society? You are probably believing that it's the things that you have to hide, right? Because when it comes out, that this actually implies you decided to hide it from the society, meaning that you actually are saying and implicitly saying this experience should be hidden by the society, right? So we think this is actually hindering the women who are willing to who actually try to like enter this like kind of activities, and we think that's bad because you are a successful role model, and then if you're as a feminist, like if you're implicitly saying that this should be hidden, we think those are people who actually want to be in this kind of job will get hurt. But secondly, we think that because you're successful women, you are probably have a significant impact to the movement, right? Therefore, we think that it's harmful for the second movement to do because now you found out that you're like hiding these like experiences and that you're not really committing to the movement. We think this will be used by the bosses maybe in a company to say that like you're not really committing to your job, right? You're just like hiding and like doing your time, using your time to like some leisure activities, and we think that that's actually harmful for the second movement. But moreover, we think so. The question is why you're doing it for 24 hours a day. Then that's not a significant amount of time. So we tell you the uniqueness of moonlighting as an escort is that you actually sometimes you like have to commit to some extent because. Like if you want to be successful as an escort, you have to get the clients, right? In order for you to get clients, actually being in this like company or like doing like moonlight escort, so that you are going to be liked by the clients, right? So we think that it's likely that you have to spend some amount of time so that like you are really successful in this like, kind of arena, right? So we think therefore it hinders the time for you to actually spend time to proceed the like movements, or you actually talk to your like lower classes of the female co-workers so that you can actually empower this kind of people, right? We think that's not a meaningful experience for you because it's you are a feminist and you want to actually proceed the movement, and we think so the moonlighting as an escort is not a good way to achieve this kind of goal. So for that reason, I think at least you have because you have 24 hours a day and you have a limited amount of time in your life. I think we need to make a priority, and if you do so, we think it's important as a feminist, as a female, as a feminist to cater to the needs of the most like vulnerable women, and we think for that reason I'm very happy to post.
I'd like to thank
I'll just strictly go to rebuttal. So their idea is some, I don't know, trade-off between escorting and demonstrations or campaigning. Why is there a trade-off? I don't understand. Like, escorting gets reservations. It does not take all your time. Demonstrations possible by hashtag movements or other internet. You can go and do other free time. I don't get it. They said that you can't use that connection. No, not necessarily. It's not that if the relation is just hidden, and not because it's moonlight, it's often not revealed to society, then you can utilize the information. Also, you don't really necessarily disclose that information. But also, it's not just connection. It's also about information you get from higher successful males, about new industries, more job opportunities, or how you utilize your skills, or how you should improve your presentation skills, or those kind of numerous aspects are only possible when you interact with diverse men from diverse industries, diverse communities, or diverse perspectives. And often just being being a middle class individual, you are contained in the society and community of a middle class decent individual. You have blocked from interaction with from really high class individuals, or blocked from knowing people of the lower industries, in prostitution, or in poor individuals. That blocks your broadening of your understanding as a responsible feminist, but simply doesn't mean that your life is contained and is not fulfilling your life, because the absence of recognition of communities and societies or perspective of the other gender, or maybe also the same gender in the same industry, in the same job, in the escorting business, means that you are blocked of any opportunity of understanding or broadening your future. That is a loss as this individual. Thirdly, they said that, moonlighting is dangerous, they might be raping. Firstly, you have to recognize that this is a legal activity, and it's probably that there are contractors that are ensuring the safety of it. If the breaching of a contract is there, males are fairly going to be punished. But furthermore, even in the grey zone scenario, these male individuals often have their social reputation, and they feel they're reporting to the police or the exposures themselves. That means that they aren't going to do all these crazy things, or the fact that they might be exposed, and they have the same risk of being known to other similar individuals. So that's not a huge issue. We think that's not really, it does exist, but it's not really something concernable to a great extent compared to other situations of sexual harassment that you might have in job places, on the street, or other areas. We think that's not important. Thirdly, they said that sexual harassment, same thing. It's not. They are risk-associated individuals, so it's not important. However, most of the arguments aren't really important, considering that this individual thought that it's important that she wants to go to escorting to fulfill her life, and it's obviously that it is a right as a feminist individual to respect her own choice or the way of interpretation of her feminism to pursue the career or path that she wants. Let's talk about the role or the responsibility of the feminist as a feminist. That feminist is the notion of a respect for actualization and diversity. That as much as it respects the movement to ensure fair environment for the entirety of women as a collective, she has, as an individual, a right to respect her own desire and her own individuality, because if it's a movement to assure that fair environment for any woman, that includes you as an individual. That means that to the extent that this individual thinks that the life has meaning in going into escort, when she thinks that escorting will broaden her life, when she thinks that she can take the risk and consent to it and wants to opt into it, that's why people have this motion that it sounds good. We think this feminist has a right in the feminist narrative to push for that way. But we do understand that there are other criticisms, that some feminism hate pornography, some feminism thinks that prostitution should be eradicated, or things like that. The existence of other interpretations of feminism doesn't mean that this feminist individual is coerced into internalizing that narrative. The meaning of the respecting of diversity of feminists also means that this feminist individual has a right to associate to the feminist ideology that she prefers and she thinks is fundamental. Understanding that this individual thinks that broadening and the fulfilling of life is about expanding our opportunities and going on with numerous communities and those things. That's written in the motion. That means that the tendency of this individual to associate to a specific feminist narrative is to be a likely one of a very liberal one, an open one, to be able to go to wherever you want to, respecting the choice. Because she thinks that there's meaning in life in going to other places, and she also thinks that women's dignities are important. The combination and the likely conclusion is that going into other places, assuring of being able to go to numerous places is good, and based on that likely interpretation of her feminism, we think that her right of going on, even in the feminist narrative, exists. But furthermore, we also understand that there is a grey zone issue about prostitution or these escortings or things like that. There should be a discussion about whether it's illegal, or whether it should be fundamentally legal or not, or how we should ensure an environment. Especially as a middle-class individual, you are totally isolated from the lives and the community of escorting, people who associate escorting, or the business structure of the escorting. And often the reporting by NGOs or rumors that are spread in society are fabricated or simply unassuring. It's unfortunate that some feminist institutions reporting about the issue of prostitution were totally fabricated and simply were just exaggerating the issue. In that context, we think it's important that this feminist individual actually goes into that industry, tries to understand what is there, whether consent is actually legitimately existing, whether environments are assured, or what sort of women are at stake, on whether prostitution is fundamentally necessary for this individual, are only associable when this individual actually goes into that industry. And that's unfortunately because media and those sort of things, you don't know which is assured durable, and all this. There's a lack of like transparency of information by the words that are written in these reports. Essentially, that means that not just you as actualizing the individual, but a feminist that has a social responsibility to understand issues and enlighten other individuals, but also have the most responsible and accurate criticisms and decisions making on this grade on issue about the fundamental like autonomy of the body of the woman. We think that the only way you are fully able to understand the context and the issue at stake is for you to go into it, talk to other women, talk to other men, and be exposed to the environment, or whether it's really hygienic on a hygiene level good, or whether the wage is worth it, or whether there's going to be a physical exploitation or not. Only possible when you go in there, take a decent time in there, talk to other people, have some discussions, think about the experience with the combination of the middle decent life, whether it's worth it. Because it's important to understand that people going into escort need do it in a lack of wage. They have other jobs and are using their spare time and doing it on a moonlight. That means that especially as an individual who has this middle life with a combination of the escorting, she is uniquely able to understand the context of women who are coerced into these prostitution. This individual, once again, by moonlighting, is uniquely able to understand the most vulnerable individuals who are often unfortunately coerced into these industries and are able to understand responsibly and transparently criticize these issues. So it is the role of this individual to understand that issue, but also the role of the individual to actualize her desire she should go on.
Mr. Speaker, trade-off is not only about time you consume on the movement or action. We are saying that you cannot condemn prostitution while you engage in the prostitution because of the internal conflict of the feminists themselves, and also the risk of double standard exposed to the society. What will happen is a severe backlash from the society or the other people surrounding you. So the motion says moonlight as escort, meaning that they secret engaging in the sexual industry. So meaning that they think that their choice is something to hide from the society and undesirable for the society. So the context here is that the society where the sexual industry is something undesirable, and women those who engage in the sexual industry have to feel shame on engaging in that industry. So given that context, what should we solve in the first place as a feminist? So their paradigm, they try to defend people's right who can engage in the sexual industry for the additional option. But option is not that right is not fully protected, because even if the person can get into the good university, they have to feel embarrassed because the money which allows you to go into the university is earned by the job that they shame on themselves. So also, on the contrary, what we want to protect and what we can protect is that protect the right of the diverse classes of women by firstly ensure the equal platform, and also based on this platform we can maximize the satisfaction of the feminists themselves. So our side is first failure. Yes.
You said hiding is bad, but also men, if men think the action is shameful, they will hide the action.
Yeah.
Well, only women hiding these things is only bad.
Okay, I will explain it. So first, two responses. First, they said that by getting into the sexual industry secretly, they can make the connection with a richer man. And that is somehow important. But firstly, this is not the unique solution to get the information about the sexual industry. They said that the middle-class women are isolated, but I think I am the target of this debate. I was born in the middle class, and I have many friends who are engaged in the sexual industry, so that's enough. The people belongs to the multiple communities, and in that communities, the feminist women can find the friends who are very familiar with the sexual industry. And also, there's no reason to take the dangerous action which Tamara explained. So, and they said that it's the right of the feminists to enjoy the enjoy the sexual self-actualization. But first, this debate is not about the right of the women, and we think that this debate should be about in which paradigms the feminists feel satisfaction by feeling that they fulfill the goal of the feminist movement. Given that goal and given this frame, we think that the feminists feel more happy by in our paradigm by fulfilling the broader purpose of the feminist movement. So I want to talk about two things. The first is about why the moonlight escort is very, very dangerous to the in a physical way, and the second is about which can protect more women's right of the self-actualization. Firstly, as Tamane told you, and I want to extend the impact of the dangerous situation of the moonlighting, and why this moonlight escort, and why this choice itself is undesirable. So firstly, as Tamane pointed out, this moonlight escort is held in the very private sphere, meaning that the man can do everything without the supervision, and also the women who engage in the moonlight escort cannot really voice out in the suit to the trial because they hesitate they are very afraid of that their action is going to be exposed to the society or the neighborhood. At the end, they cannot successfully use the opportunity itself, and they have to be expose themselves to the very, very dangerous situation. So this choice is naturally very, very dangerous. I want to remind you. And also, secondly, which paradigm can protect more women's right of the self-actualization? Their paradigm, individual, they are trying to say that the individual right of the making money by engaging in the sexual industry is somehow important. But firstly, as Tamane and I clearly told you, that this getting into the good university itself is not the absolute automatically bring the success to the women. So the process of getting the success is very, very important to human being, meaning that if the person cannot feel that they get into the university by their own efforts or the very respectable way, the people have to feel the people have to struggle with the feeling of the blame, and also as a whole movement, what will happen in their paradigm? What will happen is that in a daily situation, the feminists say that we have to respect human rights, and we have to shut down the industry, which is very offensive to women. But at the same time, that women at night engage in the sexual industry and making a huge profit for the sake of yourself. If that fact exposed to the society, what will happen? What will happen is that a very, very severe backlash from the society towards the feminist movement as a whole, and also the individual, the feminist individual as well. So compared to their paradigm, what will happen and what we can achieve in our paradigm is that, as Tamane clearly told you, the feminists themselves can spare more time on the demonstration in order to achieve the equal platform, for example, equal payment, or abolish the very offensive action for the women, and also they can. Their claim will be consistent, so there's no risk of the backlash, and also because of that situation, we can achieve the equal platform, and after that, we can make them proudly engaging in the sexual industry. So that's why our side is superior. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Important notification we have to make to begin with is that we are not completely abandoning the second wave feminist movement, because this women is already fulfilling the obligations to show and pursue the second wave movement in the daily lives. And additionally, they are seeking for the third wave feminist movement, ladies and gentlemen. We say that there's no trade-off between the second wave feminist movement and the third wave feminist movement, ladies and gentlemen. Given that, we say that for the sake of the promotion of the feminist movement agenda, as the causes the feminist movement have to promote, we say that our side is much more better.
two extensions from closing government. First of all, I'm going to characterize what is the exact goal of the feminist movement and what is the causes the feminist movement have to promote. To compare the opening side, we say that we have to think about what is the exact goal of the feminist movement and which side is closer to the actual goal of the feminist movement. And the second of all, I'm going to further explain about why uniquely outside of this house, why we can decrease the amount of the sexual discriminations like the glass ceilings as the opening opposition said. So all rebuttal, before moving on to my argument, I have one independent rebuttals. They emphasize the dangerousness of the working as an escort because this is leads to the sexual harassment or something like that. We think this is a too much unrealistic characterization because this woman is a successful feminist, which means that they deeply understand the dangerousness of the working as an escort. So therefore, they have the natural incentive to getting the information about how to protect their own bodies. For example, where to meet up with men, or how to get the trust from this kind of men by seeing the certifications of identical certifications of the men or something like that. So therefore, we think that because the women themselves have a massive incentive to protect their own bodies, we say that the dangerous characterizations of opening government is too much unrealistic. So I'm going to my extensions. First of all, I'm going to make the comparisons by thinking about what is the exact goal of the feminist movement. We say that there's a two goals as the feminist movement are actually seeking for. The first of all is what about equalities between men and women. We say that for such kind of equalities outside is much more better because. So, for example, please look at the men who are using the masculine characteristics to making the monies. For example, if in the movies, some kind of men are using the masculine poses because by showing that they can get the adopt the funds from the female societies, ladies and gentlemen. We say that men are allowed to use the masculine and male images to make the monies and to get the experiences so that they can feel the full satisfaction in the life. We say that even if we are standing for the equalities between the men and women, we can't never understand why the women can't use their own sexual characteristics to make some monies or to live the fullest satisfactory lives, ladies and gentlemen. We say that we can't what the government side try to say that this is the dangerous or something like that. We say that even if the women themselves are considered such kind of dangerous, at the same time they are seeking for the benefit of taking such kind of risky choices, we think that there's no reasons for us to stop such kind of choices because the men are allowed to do so. We say that there's to equalize the freedom the men and the women are having. We say that we have to allow the women to do that in the very first basis. And the second causes the feminist movement have to promote is that maximizations of the happinesses. Fourth, the maximization of the whole female's happinesses outside is much more better. Because outside of this house, we can promote both the second wave feminist movement and the third wave feminist movement, ladies and gentlemen. Because on the daily lives, that we can allow the women, if the women think that the second wave feminist movement causes should be promoted in the societies, they can do that. At the same time, if the women, particular women, seek for their own freedom regardless of the consequences of the feminist world, we say that we allow them to take some kind of choices which might damage the feminist movement world, ladies and gentlemen. We say in such a cases that this is the more closer things to the actual goal of the feminist movement. Because the feminist movement is not only standing for the women who are seeking for the second wave feminists, because the women in the society is not only about the second wave feminist, second wave person, ladies and gentlemen. In such a cases, the feminist movement have to be inclusive and have to think about the whole kind of the happiness in the societies. We say that to pursue such kind of goals, we think our side is better because it is completely up to your choices to choose the second wave feminist movement and the third wave feminist movement. So therefore, by considering the true goal of the feminist movement, our side it should be prioritized over the opposition side. So before moving on to the second point, okay.
Okay, if you think escorting is something that you can be proud of, then why are you hiding it from the society that you do this kind of activity? So isn't that more harmful to the movement that you're saying?
Yeah, of course. I don't think that they're hiding. so I think that it is not the times to like open such kind of situations, and because that we have to think about effectiveness to promote and improve the human standpoint. Therefore, if we suddenly open such a things, this is also damaging for the women's society. So therefore, we are not temporarily hiding such kind of things. But if the acceptance of such kind of work will be promoted, we are happy to open such kind of situations. Let's move on to the second point. Why the social discrimination will decrease? We say that the opening government successfully told you that the women's experience and ability will be improved by having the connections with like men or something like that. We are going to like telling about why our society is uniquely changed the concept of the men's, and why the such kind of changing the concept like perceptions of men is extremely important. There's two reasons why we can change the like men's like stereotypical like norm, which is not like promoting the men's, which is promoting the narrative that women is always inferior. The first of all, we say that under the status quo, there's no opportunities for the women to have the like meeting the very like men who are dominating the power in the society, ladies and gentlemen. In such a cases, by getting opportunities to like knowing such kind of men and chanting with this kind of men, we think that this is exclusively beneficial things, because we can show the successful images of the women who are working hard and very like making accomplishment in the working places, ladies and gentlemen. And this is completely different from chatting in the working places, because this is escort women. Therefore, this is more like simple familiar existence with the men. So therefore, we propose.
We're going to be doing two things to extend and contribute to this debate. First of all, we're going to tell you why these women are successful. The reason is because they receive the help and support of feminism, other feminist actors in society, and they have a moral obligation to do things that are not immoral and put women below men, which is a principle argument that boosts their entire case and directly engages with their argument, right? Which is the fact that, okay, look, there's nothing wrong with this choice, right? There's nothing wrong with it. It's immoral, right? We're going to tell you why it's immoral, because they're going against the contributions and why they're successful in the first place. Then we're going to try and solidify why it's actually dangerous. But not only that, we're going to tell you how these sort of activities eventually lead to these women's success actually falling. They're going to crumble because they still feel a sort of self-shame the more and more they do these activities, and that limits their success, and that limits all the benefits that they want to do. So let's just please try to understand me. It might be a messy speech. So their argument is that, okay, more choice is good and we shouldn't oppose this, right? What we're saying is, what we're going to tell you is that why these individual women have a responsibility to conduct themselves in a manner that considers the type of ideology that the feminist movement holds and what other women expect them to do, right? What we say is that the ideology of feminism is that these women should display themselves in a manner that is dignified and not as somebody who's just paid to do whatever the desire of that man is, right? So for example, if the man is tired and he wants some tea, then you have to call on this woman, right? The woman has to give up her time and energy to serve this man and to basically follow him, right? What we say is that the reason why these women are successful is because they receive the support of other feminist people, right? That's the sort of status that they have, and that's why they're successful, right? So we think that they have an obligation to conduct themselves in a manner that doesn't go against the expectation of those people, right? And we say that the way that they conduct themselves in a manner that goes against that expectation is that they are lowering themselves below what those men actually believe, right? And we think that there are two impacts here. The first is that even if this is never revealed, we think that the women are directly contributing to the hegemonic patriarchy by giving men money and allowing these men to continue to exploit other women. How does this happen? I think this is the most important thing in today's debate. It's really weird why no one talks about this. So first, the type of men that want escorts are probably CEOs, rich people who exploit women in their companies, right? They want to exploit women. That's why they want all these escorts in the first place, right? That's why, even if it's still a small amount of money, it's immoral, right? It means, so what these women are doing is essentially contributing to that hegemonic system by giving them money and allowing these men to continue to exploit other actors. Especially, we think this is immoral because those other actors are the people who are the reason why you are successful in the first first place, right? So we think it's immoral and it's damaging to the entirety of their case. Okay, the second impact we have is that it sends a social message, right? That women are beneath men, that men are in control, right? What we say is that given that they have okay, I'll talk about that later. But I have one refutation as well. So, okay, what they told us, what he told me, right, was that, okay, feminism movement is important because different women should interact with each other. Like, the whole feminist progression is when different status women can interact with each other, and this is a unique opportunity to do so. Why is this the only unique opportunity to do so? The feminism movement is already progressing because we have the feminism, we have like seminars, we have like, for example, social scientists who are already going into these areas and publishing paper and discourse to talk about these issues, right? We said most of the time, sometimes these researchers are also women, and there are also people who have suffered those issues, right? So we say that regardless of the fact of if these women, we have to sacrifice that option, if we can still somewhat achieve that sort of discourse. But even if we can't achieve that sort of discourse, we think it's immoral and hurtful for them to still contribute to a system of exploitation, and goes against the fact that why they're successful in the first place. But second, okay, I'll take you.
Is it immoral in general to opt into escorting?
Okay, I'll talk about that in my next point. So what we say is that, okay, so to address their POI, we're going to say that, like, so their POI, right, the closing handai. So first, what we say is that the difference, why women should not do this versus why men can do this is because currently women are the ones who are vulnerable in society, right? So if some women do escorting, they're contributing to a system that actually damages other people's exploitation, right? For example, the CEOs have more money and more confidence to like continue to lower their wages or continue to harass them in the workplace. But it's not the same for men because men already have those sort of protections and privileges, right? That's why we have to protect these women. So, but second of all, we think it's bad for these women's success. We think it hinders their ability to continue to fight for women's rights, especially for these particular women who are already successful. Why is that? Because what we say is that even though they might want money, right? What we say is that eventually the sort of services that they do contribute to a character of self-shame and regret that makes them feel like they themselves are dirty and that they themselves are not doing something that matches the ideology of the feminism movement, right? Why is this the case? Because literally the things that they are doing are that they are basically abiding to the desires and trying to satiate whatever these men want, right? And I gave you previously examples of that. What that means is that eventually these women are going to go to a point in which they find it hard for themselves to maintain a double image, right? In life and during the night, right? It means that it hinders their success, it hinders their ability during the day to go as a proud woman and to advocate for women's rights. It hurts their campaigning because they are continually building a secret life that actually gives them stigma, it actually makes them more and more unconfident. We think that is going to be a result. But we also still think that this is something that is dangerous, right? Because recognize that this is moonlighting, right? It means that there is a stigma attached to it. It meaning that they can only prosecute men who abuse the system, right? Even if we have laws, if the women themselves are going to court. But the women hesitate to do that because they're going to be found out, because there is stigma, right? It means that it's very difficult to crack down on sort of cases that are damaging towards women, which means that we still think this substantial material is really important for our opening's entire case, which is that it's harmful towards women. Because if it's harmful towards women, then it also restricts your choices and goes against the feminist movement, which also deals with what they told you, right? So at the end of the day, we think it's immoral and hurtful for women to engage in a particular type of activity that strengthens the ability of the patriarchy to continue to hurt other women. We told you why they have an obligation to give back to the people who are responsible for their success. We engaged directly with their case, supported their case, and also told you why eventually it will be hard for them to continue their success into the future. That's why we are proud to.
Ladies and gentlemen, I was born as a man, and I am successful because I am standing in the semi-final of the akiT. And I think that I am not bounded by the choice of the gender, regardless of gender, individually. If I want to enjoy my life, if I want to go to the prostitution, I think it's better for me to hide those kind of experience of the prostitution because it's better for me. Individually, I think, we say women, the feminists, which seek the equal, perfect fairness as the man, has also the right to enjoy their life without the feeling that broke of the unfairness of the men. They also have the right to socially, economically, also sexually have enjoyed their own life. That's what those kind of successful feminist movement should seek. That's why I proudly propose the motion. One point in my speech: principle of individual young and successful female feminist. What kind of role she should embody? Our extension is clear. Regardless of the waves, types of the feminist movement, which was the dialogue and the opening hall, the fundamental principle is preparing the complete fairness status with the men economically, whatever I already told you. On this point, as successful women, she should embody the ideal situation of the women because she is the only actor to play those kind of role. We say they have to embody the role that choice of individual should not be binded by the idea of gender, which is birth lottery, which is constraining you from choosing the other choice for you. In this kind of occasion, it's better for the feminists, it's better for those individual happiness. They can enjoy their life maximally. So we probably propose why this argument is important. It's really important. Firstly, in this argument, clarified what feminist movement should seek regardless of the context or wave. The opening of talk to second wave or third wave, I don't know, but the principle of the feminist movement is seek the equal right of the individual. Feminist movement don't seek the stronger power than the men. That's why they only demand the same vote as men. That's why this is the principal goal of feminists is to seek the same right as men. On this point, why this is important? Because I said this, the harm provided opposition was meaningful or not meaningful. Why is that? Because they talk to hiding directly mean as women you think it's shameful. That's why it's something harmful for the society. If this thinking is bounded by the choice as the women, it should be bad. But on this point, this women actively choose individually, eliminated from the bondage of the gender, they freely choose to enter this point because they are already economically rich. They already have the rooms in the society. They freely choose to enjoy their right to hide those kind of shameful poor points, which is the same as me. Even if I want to go to the prostitution individually, generally using those kind of sexual language is very harmful for your reputation. That's even the man will hide in order to protect your own social status. For example, that's why this is an equal opportunity, equal right of the individual. Even there is a porno star of the men, they can enjoy their money, making money by utilizing their own sexual organ, and they likely to hide the information. Those men have the equal right to pursue their own sexual economical right, but only the women feel obstacle to sexually economically attain their own goal. This is unjust. That's why as a successful women who can be unique actor, we have to do so. It's a clear principle of the individual young successful female feminist. Secondly, because my argument is important, we could clarify what is the unique role of this debate or this target, because opening up and talk to helping people is important. Two responses. First, it's not a trade-off. All successful told you. Secondly, even if it's trade-off for this women, but the other women, the other feminists still can help those vulnerable people in the society. That's why it's not a very unique role this women, division of this women, should do. Just say this is something immoral kind of things, but we say this role to embody the perfect ideal situation as an individual person, not as women, is the only way for them to embody the role of the feminist as the feminist, because they are not bounded by the choice of the individual. As an individual, they will hide, they will moonlight she will moonlight, she will enjoy their own those kind of things. This is a unique experience for that kind of individual woman. That's why their entire analysis is not mutually exclusive. What is important is a unique analysis of what kind of role this women defined by this motion should do. On this point, only this women already socially recognized as middle class successful. There's no feeling of the binding of the grassy feeling as those kind of individual actively do the very free choice of individual. This can be done only by our target. That's why this is clearly important. Thirdly, because our side is important, our side clearly told you why in this point that this individual, that in this debate, why they can get unique experience, it leads to the happiness of individual. The opening government talked to that, okay.
Okay, so which is important? The unique experience or unique but dangerous. This is dangerous experience. So why danger and uniqueness? Why is it?
Danger is already divided from three perspectives. First, equality. Second, from the perspective of men. My part created from the perspective of women. Women is always successful. They have the capacity to fight with those kind of men because they have a calculation what kind of place is so very dangerous or likely to be. That's why they can have naturally escape from this dangerous. It's very likely to occur. That's why their case is not already not standing. Compared to this point that unique experience, this opening I will talk to you, the fullest experience means as many as possible experience, then how you feel the experience. When you feel that unique experience that only you can do, you feel satisfaction because I can experience in akiT here, it's very unique experience that a vast majority of people cannot do. That's why I feel self-satisfaction, unique satisfaction for you. I can do what the other people cannot do. By doing so, I feel satisfaction. I think I did a good experience for my life. That's why the individual level, those kind of individual women defined in this motion can get unique experience which can be very beneficial for their own life, which was very big on this debate. That's why individual level we can guarantee this kind of very unique and rare experience for that people. That's why we proudly propose. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Shunya successfully talking about, in general, what kind of stance is better for the feminist movement in order to achieve their purpose. And I can understand their argument. The third wave movement is better because in order to achieve equality. However, we think that we need to talk about this woman. This woman want to hide that kind of activity, and this woman can be successful until now, because support those kind of second wave movement because they want to hide that kind of activity. They support those kind of situation. Only they are talking about third wave is more important in order to achieve equality. However, we think that for this woman want to continue to support that kind of current stance of her. That is why we think that still those kind of people have moral obligation to not to do those kind of activity. From opening opposition in this debate, maybe that kind of activity is dangerous, maybe revealed, that is why harmful, and maybe trade-off, okay, maybe harmful. From closing opposition, definitely, why this woman should not do that? Why? Because reason is quite simple. This woman have moral obligation to not to do that kind of activity. That is why we think we stand on the opposition side later. I'm going to do two things in my speech. Firstly, what kind of stance they should take, as feminists, that is directly clash to closing government is also clash. And secondly, which paradigm can achieve flawless life is directly clash to the opening government. The opening government argument can maximize the choice of women. Women can achieve that kind of flawless lifestyle. That is why we think that two argument is quite important. Okay, first one is what kind of stance they should take. Before that, okay?
So, when other women are in the industry, one woman's participation in exploitation, the impact is small. Is that impact more important than the ignorance on exploitation where you fail to properly discuss and engage with that issue?
Yeah, I don't think so. Because, yeah, of course, to some extent that kind of impact is. However, we think that still those kind of women have in order to continue to work for women, they still should not do those kind of activity. From closing garment, they say this woman can support third wave movement because they can achieve equality, etc., etc. However, firstly, it's important point. These women are supported by the women who support second wave movement until now because they want to hide that kind of activity towards those kind of supporter. Reason is quite simple. Many supporter is only supporting second wave. Those kind of women don't support those third wave movement. That way, in that kind of circumstance, they have to continue to
continue to work for that kind of like current like supporter because as my partner clearly told you, why that they can be successful because they are supported by many supporter and many help coming from many feminists. That is we think that still they have to like continue to like current stance. More than secondly, like changing the style is not so easy things. Like because for a certain time already they continue to support those kind of the like second wave movement, and especially today's case is not like ordinary feminist, it's successful feminist. It's sincerely they support like those kind of like second wave and current their stance. That is why we think that changing the style is not so easy things for themselves. That is why we think that still should not do those kind of activity. More than the thirdly, it's more importantly, even though like they work as like an escort in moonlight, it's not so effective in order to achieve like third wave movement because anyway they hide those kind of activity. How you can contribute to third wave movement even though they work in those kind of as an escort? That is a thing that even though those kind of women work in those kind of place, they cannot like achieve those kind of goal as you argue. That is a thing that those kind of women like should not change that kind of stance and should not choose like third wave, etc., etc. On the comparative, in your paradigm, those kind of women have moral obligation to continue to support because if they like, for example, if they work as an escort in moonlight, they betray like many supporter like believe you. That is a reason that they have a moral obligation to not do those kind of activity. And like closing garment, they say like in the case of men also like do those kind of activity, etc., etc. Yeah, even though that kind of circumstance, like in the status quo, these women like choose like second wave. These women don't choose like third wave. Third wave. That is a we think that those kind of even though like you think so, like towards about this woman should not do that kind of activity. That is a we think that as feminists, this woman should work for like. Should continue to support like current trend. And secondly, like which paradigm can achieve flawless life? Okay, from closing.
From this motion, we cannot understand what kind of wave these women support. That's why they have to stick the original principle of the feminist, the seek fairness.
Yeah.
We are saying they are supporting.
If these women want to support like prostitution or like sexual activity, why they moonlight this activity? Why they want to hide like this activity? You have to open that. Because they can achieve by themselves like third wave movement. That's an important point in this debate. Next, secondly, which paradigm can achieve flawless life? Like opening up successful explain, they can do many things. For example, can enter university, can like go to more like can enter university or etc., etc. However, towards this woman, most important things for him is work for women because they are successful women. In that kind of circumstance, even though they can enter the university, if they cannot continue to work for women sincerely because they feel shame, for example, they cannot have self-confidence in order to work for women. In that kind of circumstance, even though they can do many things, many things except for working for feminists, in that kind of circumstance, which is more important for their own life, for flawless life, we think that working for women is more flawless things for those kind of women. That is why we think that like if they like work as an escort, as my partner clearly told you, they cannot have the self-confidence and they cannot like continue to work for women sincerely. That is why we think that my partner's argument is so important. Thank you.